All right, it's been a while since I made a video where I should record my face. So if you're wondering what I look like right now, this is what I look like. I just finished watching Sargon stream on the reason why we can't understand each other, or something titled similarly, and he got into the problem of simulations and illusions, one could say, in Eastern meditation, and um, how basically someone can go down the path of destructiveness and dysfunction and so on until they're forced to confront the actual real situation and adjust accordingly and so on. A lack of doing that is often very coincidental to narcissism, and it's sort of also related to a midlife crisis. And I was thinking about it a little bit about how somebody said, Jonathan Pajot, I believe, on William Marshall or whatever his name is, interview on the post-war consensus falling apart and dissipating, is the big bad villain of an era will eventually fade into the history books and so on. And of course, the newer generation is growing up biologically, physiologically, developmentally in a period that has no bearing on the past 80 to 100 years ago, except what people did in response to it. Now, I'm pretty sure he understands this, Sargon does. But what that means is there's hope for the future generations to course correct for a while at least, and so on. My existential crisis guide and toolkit is essentially trying to land a lasting peace through wise advice that I've learned the hard way a lot of the time, that I don't think necessarily other people formulate quite the same as me. It's closer to it's ripped thematically and conceptually from a lot of other people's thoughts, like Lao Tzu, C.S. Lewis, Jordan Peterson, Christian Hines, Nick Freitas, Sargon, Romanian TV, Doug Wilson, Bishop Robert Barron, and Gavin Ortland. In regards to certain things, and maybe Victor Davis Hanson as well, and Andrew Clavin. But that's enough advertising that basically. But if you want to see where I'm developing a sort of like hopefully when the dust settles and everyone's calmed down a little bit compared to now, and once we've won against the woke and the third world and so on, then we can calm down and make a show. Like after we rub their faces in the dirt completely, we give them something of a minor token of gift that they cherish, that's useful to them on a fundamental level, that doesn't interfere with us in any big way. A sacrifice. I'm not talking about sacrifice in the sense of blood sacrifice or something like that. But I'm talking about like giving them a sense of honor, pride, and dignity. Not the Christian pride, but the sort of uh, dignity and honor kind of position of being the who they are, basically. I guess is one way to put it. I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but basically, it's kind of like the Indian reservation system, but for leftists and third worlders. Except the leftists will have arts and culture that they have to bow to the right to on within a business, but they can push their ideas and subvert in a not fake and gay way that speaks to a greater human experience and so on, and through the wilderness be not constantly hounded to find something that is transcendental that they can tie themselves to, basically. Because that's another thing. We're not tying ourselves to the transcendental generally as much. Like I just saw someone say show a tweet or something of like the fact that Generation Alpha wasn't lining up for Santa at Christmas and so on. And it was like, okay, we used to believe in big things. We've got an economic collapse. It's not Mad Max. It's just what we got now. We got invasion, mass invasion. We got AI. Okay, whatever, bro. We got Star Trek communicators and tricorders. Who cares? We got the best technical graphics games in history for the last 10 years, and we're like it's stagnated. But we're falling apart, not developing. And the smaller game studios are picking up the slack and pushing into the AAA, while China takes the failing AAA and then repurposes it in its own way, and so on. There's a massive drug crisis. There's crime problems rampant. There's mass governmental surveillance. There's mass corporate censorship. Mass government censorship as well. They're using AIs to clamp down on clever ways to evade censorship. Basically. And like I thought would have to happen, we formed institutions that are distinctly anti those things that attract people to them just by being better about how they go about things within their relations to people and so on. People find more comfortable usage of things like Twitter if they don't have to see the opposing side, maybe, but they can just block the opposing side. So how do we deal with the hyperreal exactly and so on? Yeah. The answer is we network. We push each other forwards and so on, so that more people who are motivated rightwards a lot can share these individuals with other people. Excuse me. And the more people we promote that are right wing, then the more alternatives and the more the better chance you can select someone that actually vibes with someone who's not necessarily right wing. So you start converting people person by person with good, somewhat agreeable, but distinctly different opinions, who doesn't violate their sensibility of how one carries oneself, but they have a different way of approaching things logically or rationally or systematically or theoretically or conceptually. Uh, Being a good role model is important. There are genuinely things that are obviously good and obviously bad. And you want to get the people that do the obviously good things and don't do the obviously bad things. Nick Fuentes is, I don't want to call him a flash in the pan, but he's going to get contained, I think, eventually at a certain point of influence, similar to Sargon of the Cat. At least on his channel, at least. Yeah. Nick Freitas has outpaced both of them on some level or something like that. So, yeah. Now, the important thing is there's two things you can do to win as well. And they're crucial on top of networking and promoting more voices within our movement so that people can select the best fit for someone who isn't on board totally, but is open to moving a little rightwards and so on. You know, we'll build the centrist to right wing pipeline, basically like the leftists were complaining about. We'll build it, and then you know, the left won't have a chance because we're real and they're hyper real or fake and gay. But it's about gentle introduction to the rough things and so on and so on. And one of the things I want to specify is that you can tell people you don't agree with everything the person says that you're linking them to or something like that, but you think they can get something out of it. Like it'll speak to some aspect of their life that is resonates with them as a person, basically. The next thing you can do is you have a cadre of people that you can point to and go, if it's not me, it's going to be him or her, and you don't want him and her, even if you don't like me very much. And point to their popularity as they build up and so on. So that you can get a bit of begrudging support or something like that, and so on. I know that's not very... I mean, some of this is about appealing to people who are hyper real or fake and gay and so on, but you know, it's partly about gentle introduction for the people that aren't on board yet, whereas the people like Nick Fuentes are the hard reject tradition, embrace modernity. I know I got that backwards, but based on what you were saying, Sargon, that seems to be the case with Nick Fuentes. And also, finally, and Nick Fuentes is basically that armor-piercing comment, armor-piercing question, kind of aggressive, hostile, penetrate the armor guy. that being a moderate, but definitely part of the right, as it's in the ascendancy, will naturally get people to go to you if you're accurate and trustworthy and successful as an example and a theoretician or conceptualizer, like a shaman or something with a family, like a priest with a family in Calvinism or something. And it's literally just nibble away at the edges, convert to convert, rally to rally, and don't screw up the basics of morality. That's it. It's defeat and it's you have to defeat them in detail, and no blitzkriegs until the very end when they're weak, and then you just take power, and then you do what you want. But another thing you can do, by the way, actually, this is something that I noticed people have not been doing very much. And this will be like the last one or two things, basically, is you can promote a healthy, positive vision of the world under your order and a set of instructions and rough parameters for how to get there. It's not just a throwaway thing. You have to go into details of how the systems work and interplay with each other a little bit to get to the point where people are rich, happy, have meaning, are safe, free, right? Like all of those things, and like comfortable. And it's not enough to just complain, bitch, and moan about the other side. You have to develop a vision of the future with a roadmap to get there. You have to pick the destination. You have to plot the pathway. You know, you have to have traveled some of it yourself, at least part of the way, for the part you're leading, more or less. Or have... It can't just be all talking about the glory days of back then and now we have it shit and everything's sad and I'm complaining about it, but I'm not providing a solution. You provide a convincing solution or series of solutions that interact with each other in a way that people can believe but is a little more elegant, then you'll get the Spurgs on your side because they'll be so enraptured by the elegance of your plan and the fact that you've outthought the other people in that domain to success, basically. And if you do that in a way that gives a little bit of room for the left to do their own thing, but you give it in a way for the people that want to be more rightwards to succeed and be in charge, with the right in charge, and everyone succeeds more, you don't just say that you want that, you actually provide a system and mechanism and limitations on your plan for limitations of hostility in your plan and so on, so that when the time comes, everyone knows exactly where you stand on the issues, why you stand on them, and where you want to go finally, and so on. A campaign strategy, basically. Except for our civilization or your country or your city or your municipality or your own life or something like that. People don't want to just avoid failure, they want to get success. So that's something to think about. And it's not a throwaway comment, it's a central core of why I'm doing the existential crisis guide and toolkit, because I basically went through hell on earth in a midlife crisis at the same time, and homelessness, and got schizophrenic. And My existential crisis guide and toolkit is essentially how to deal with being poor, traumatized, and what's real, guaranteed, and how to be a better person than you were before, and how it works, and the parameters by which you can do that. And the positive impacts that it has if more people follow that principle, mutually interacting with each other.